Welcome back to HypnoWitch. This is where I discuss hypnosis, mental health, spirituality, and their intersections. I'm Victoria Lee. I'm a certified hypnotherapist and certified past life regression specialist. So you may notice that my name has, my name has stayed the same, my podcast name, HypnoWitch. The first episode I did introduce it as HypnoTalk, and that's because it originally was called HypnoTalk. But I've changed the name. There was another name that was similar. I changed it, and now here we are. And I think this is a better fit. So just wanted to get that out of the way. Welcome back to HypnoWitch. I'm your host, Victoria. I'm a hypnotherapist, and I want to help you. I want to help you grow. I want to help you feel more at home in yourself. And today's episode 2 of HypnoWitch, is 5 ways to cultivate self-trust. And I'm really excited about this one. So I feel like self-trust is just so vital in navigating life as a human being, especially one who is more on the sensitive side, but definitely for all of us, trusting ourselves. It's an act of resistance. It's an act of rebellion because this capitalist infrastructure just wants to beat the message into us so hard that, they don't want us to have those inner resources, right? They don't want us to have answers and an inner compass that we can rely on. And so I feel that self-trust and your intuition and your confidence are just vital. So let's get into it. Confidence isn't always an inside job. Our confidence levels throughout life are largely determined by the relationships we have with our caretakers as children. A lack of confidence can often be traced back to having endured neglect and or abuse at the hands of the very people who were supposed to love and guide us. Adverse childhood experiences can have dire effects on a child's development and can manifest into severe consequences later in life if left unaddressed. From the time we're born until about age 8, we are highly impressionable. During these formative years, we're forming our subconscious programming about ourselves and about the world around us that will serve as a sort of script for our life from then on. Unless we were raised in a bubble, there's an extremely high likelihood that somewhere along the line, we may have received the message that we're not enough. Even folks who didn't experience neglect or abuse explicitly as children can still internalize this message at some point because the truth is we live in an imperfect world and our parents are only human with their own struggles and flaws. We're all a product of everything we've ever experienced, and a lot of folks simply just don't possess the inner resources to form a strong emotional bond with their children. However unintentional, this can still hold dire consequences for the child throughout their life. I'd like to make an honorable mention here for neurodivergence and its role in a person's confidence or lack thereof. Neurodivergence is when a person's brain functions differently than what is considered quote-unquote typical. Examples include the autism spectrum, PTSD and CPTSD, dyslexia, OCD, and several other conditions. Navigating life as a neurodivergent person in a neurotypical world can be not so great for our confidence. I speak from experience, as I'm actually diagnosed with CPTSD, or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, as a result of my own adverse childhood experiences. Living as a neurodivergent person in a world that wasn't designed for your needs can be incredibly stressful and can at times foster the belief that there's something inherently wrong with you. You must be hopelessly screwed up if you can't figure out how to function when everyone else seems to be doing just fine, right? Wrong. Wrong. I promise you, regardless of your trauma, your mental illness, or your neurodivergence, there is nothing wrong with you. Our heteropatriarchal capitalist hellscape is actually incredibly ableist in nature and will have you tearing your hair out trying to fit into its rigid idea of perfection, all to keep the machine running and to keep you buying products. So how do we begin to cultivate confidence? I want to be clear when I say that well-being is a community issue and not just an individual one. Placing the responsibility solely on the individual for their own well-being is an inherently capitalist idea intended to gaslight us and isolate us from each other. That being said, here are 5 ways that you can begin to cultivate confidence and self-trust in a society that benefits from your lack thereof. Number 1 is having a daily system or routine. A daily system or routine is the foundation for the rest of your day. It's especially helpful for those of us who are neurodivergent, providing an opportunity to center, ground, and set an intention for the rest of the day. I have found that having a system provides me with a sense of stability and grounding that has been immeasurably valuable in cultivating trust in myself. When life gets hectic, I know I always have my system to rely on to keep me grounded. Every morning I wake up, I make a glass of warm lemon water, and immediately sit down and meditate. I give myself about an hour to go through my spiritual practice, which includes silent meditation, pulling cards, and journaling. I do this before reaching for any of my devices, and it gives me a chance to recalibrate and center myself in preparation for the day. I then have some breakfast, go on a walk, and sometimes work out before getting ready for whatever is planned for that day. Your routine or system might look completely different, and that is great. The idea is to create one that works best for you according to your needs and ability. I'd like to also add that it's extremely helpful to cultivate a nighttime routine as well. It can help you to wind down and improve your sleep overall, allowing you to awaken refreshed and renewed, just feeling better. Try to avoid screens for at least an hour or 2 before bed, as the blue light created by your screens inhibits the production of melatonin in your brain, which is the hormone responsible for the timing of your circadian rhythm. Stick to anything that helps you to relax and feel cozy and calm. Make yourself a cup of tea, read, journal, whatever works best for you. These systems are meant to support you, so if you find yourself struggling to stick to yours, it might be time to reevaluate and make some changes. Try to be patient with yourself when cultivating any new system or routine. And if you struggle with consistency, just keep coming back again and again and again and again to what works for you. Over time, you'll almost definitely see an improvement in your self-trust and confidence. Number 2 is boundaries. Establishing boundaries with friends, family, and loved ones is crucial in cultivating self-trust. If someone says or does something that bothers you in any way, it's important to communicate with the person in question and let them know. Most of the time, the people in our lives aren't intentionally trying to hurt or bother us. Communication is an invaluable skill and can help to bring clarity into your relationships. Establishing boundaries with our loved ones is a vital process in establishing and maintaining community. When we set boundaries with others and vice versa, we're giving them an opportunity to learn how to better interact with us, and we're also learning how we can better interact with them. When conflict does inevitably arise, practicing conflict resolution can not only keep the relationship intact, but strengthen it as well. If someone in your life continues the upsetting behavior after you've communicated your boundaries to them, it might be time to create some distance between yourself and that person. Over time, having our boundaries violated by those around us can wear us down, having dire consequences for our confidence and self-trust. Nothing and no one is worth sacrificing your relationship with yourself over. If someone continues to violate your boundaries after making them clear to that person, it may be time to reevaluate the relationship altogether, or even seek the help of a mediator to help to find a solution. Though conflict resolution is priority over ending relationships, we do have to be able to discern when to repair our relationships and when to terminate them. Number 3 is self-forgiveness. Throughout life, even when we have the best intentions for ourselves, we will inevitably make mistakes. Making mistakes is innately human. It is how we learn. The trick is to allow ourselves grace when we do make mistakes, self-correcting while maintaining kindness towards ourselves. There is no need to punish ourselves just for being human. I want to challenge you just to observe yourself the next time you make a mistake. What feelings are arising within you, in your mind and in your body? How do you automatically talk to yourself when you mess up? Do you tend to scold yourself or even put yourself down? Just try to notice what happens. Observe without judgment. In the moment, you may have the impulse to speak to yourself negatively. Try to remember to pause, take a deep breath, and intercept any negative self-talk that starts to occur, replacing it with understanding and compassion instead. Instead of coming down hard on ourselves when we mess up, it's so important to speak to ourselves the way we would speak to someone we love, or a child, or even a child version of ourselves. You wouldn't scold someone you love or put them down when they're not 100% perfect. Remember that your subconscious mind is listening when you speak to yourself. Your subconscious mind doesn't have the same cognition that your conscious mind does, and can't really differentiate between your intentions when you speak to yourself. Practicing grace and loving kindness toward yourself is crucial in developing confidence and self-trust. Remember that there's only one you, and you've got to have your own back. You can do it. Number 4 is unstructured play. Having the time just to play, laugh, explore, and be creative is deeply underrated. In our capitalist infrastructure, we are constantly bombarded with the message that we need to be monetizing everything all the time. I can't even begin to express how harmful that idea actually is for us. It makes me so mad. The benefits of unstructured play are not exactly quantifiable, and that's the point. The opportunity to let go and do things specifically because they bring you joy is something that is deeply overlooked by most adults in our current society. Neglecting this part of ourselves can not only diminish our joy, but actually cause us real harm. In letting yourself play, you'll begin to see improvements in your critical thinking skills, problem solving, creativity, imagination, stress levels, and yes, your confidence and self-trust. In fact, unstructured play is an incredible way to give yourself a container in which to make mistakes freely, allowing you to cultivate a strong sense of self by seeing that making mistakes is just a part of the process. Giving yourself that time and space to do whatever you like with no predetermined outcome is crucial for living a fulfilled life. Even more than that, it is exactly why we're here. The idea of work as a virtue is deeply colonialist in nature and not one that fosters true joy and a thriving community. Completing tasks necessary for maintaining our lives doesn't need to be a joyless endeavor, and productivity doesn't need to and shouldn't be the center of our lives. Giving yourself time to just be and do whatever makes you happy can help to expand upon this idea and help you to cultivate self-trust. And number 5, self-emotional regulation. Now, this is a tricky one. I want to be clear again in that no one should have to be responsible for their entirety of their mental and emotional well-being. Well-being is a community issue and not just an individual one. Not only that, but emotional regulation skills are not realistically accessible for all folks. If you suffer from a disorder such as depression, bipolar disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD, or any disorder for that matter, emotional regulation can sometimes be extremely difficult or even impossible. However, sometimes there are tools that we can cultivate within ourselves to help soften and even diffuse emotionally charged moments within reason. It just depends on the person and the circumstances. And this concept isn't meant for long-term treatment, it's just for acute moments of mild to moderate distress. When we take the time to learn about ourselves and the things that trigger us, we begin to take our power back. The first step when experiencing an intense emotion is to take a deep breath deeply into the belly. This will begin to activate the vagus nerve, which can help begin to bring us back from a state of fight or flight and into a state called rest and digest. Noticing what we're feeling and identifying it by name can help us to create a buffer between ourselves and the intensity we're experiencing. It's important to try to notice where in our body we feel the intense emotions, as this can help us to determine what we're feeling and why. Remember that our minds tend to take in just a few details and then fill in the blanks based on our internal life script, which is our subconscious programming. Try to pause and intersect any story you may be telling yourself about what may be happening. Try to refrain from assigning meaning to what you're feeling until you have the facts. Remember how I mentioned speaking to yourself with loving kindness the way you would speak to a loved one or a child? This is a good time to put that into practice. Try to be gentle with yourself during emotionally charged moments, the best that you can in that moment. Use encouraging and kind language when you talk to yourself, and try to stall any negative or blaming self-talk that may be occurring at this time. It's okay to be upset when something triggers you, but try not to beat yourself up for experiencing the trigger. Becoming triggered is a function of the nervous system, and it happens to us unconsciously. It is not your fault. If self-regulation seems too difficult, it may be time to seek the support of a professional. As a hypnotherapist, I do help my clients to process their negative, stagnant emotions, as well as teach them emotional regulation skills, both cognitively and within the subconscious. However, some things are outside of the scope of hypnotherapy and may require the help of a therapist or physician. As a hypnotherapist, I cannot diagnose, treat, or cure any disorder. And to work with a client who may have a disorder, or if I suspect that they have one, sometimes a referral from a therapist or physician is required to proceed with the hypnotherapy. Well, I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that you were able to get some tools for beginning to cultivate self-trust. I'm Victoria Lee. I'm a certified hypnotherapist and certified past life regression specialist. You can find me on Instagram at Victoria Lee Hypnosis and HypnoWitch Podcast, as well as TikTok at Victoria Lee Hypnosis. And you can find me at my website, victorialeehypnosis.com. All right, I will see you next time.